Hey Warren,
Well, hello, Roy. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, excellent, excellent. Nice to see you as always.
Ditto.
So we are back for another season.
Crazy. So this is year two of this episode. Bigger, better, more exciting than ever.
Never heard that before.
Nah, it's only appropriate. So
Well, welcome to everybody out there today, and thanks for tuning in to this very special launch of year two of our beloved series, Space 1999. And I think over the next few weeks, Roy, we've got some exciting guests lined up as we did with the year one segments, and news and information on upcoming events as well, leading into the next convention this September. And where we're going to start off with this year, Roy. What episode are we actually going to be covering today?
well, since today is January 25th and it is 2026, and we have been for the last 3, 4 years, actually, this is the third year we've been celebrating the 50th anniversary of Space 1999, because production in 1999 was between 1973 and 1976. And it just so happens that back on January 26th of 1976, the very first episode of year two, the Metamorph, was actually starting production. So literally 50 years ago from today,
Virtually today.
tomorrow.
That's amazing. 50 years ago to the day.
Yeah, it really worked out with the timing. The only
Yeah,
thing that could have been potentially better would have been if the 26th had been on a Sunday, but how appropriate that it's on a Monday, because it was on a Monday back in 1976.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, we are actually at the 50-year mark. I don't know. This actually hit me harder, I think, with everything, that in terms of that the series is 50 years old. I mean, I know we've been celebrating that, but the fact that year two is now 50 years old, I don't know. That's just kind of it just kind of like hit hard. Not in a bad way, but it's just like wow. But anyway, of course, to your question, we're going to be discussing the Metamorph.
The Metamorph. Yes. Well, I think all of us as youngsters, were eagerly anticipating year two. There was a full promotional campaign in the works, and a lot of the newspapers and trades were plastered with news of Space 1999 moving into its second season. And even on TV, there was a couple of short trailers that they were distributing around. And I remember seeing one of those trailers, Roy, a few weeks out, and it just whet my appetite. It looked so different, but so, I mean, it was everything it was promised to be. It was, there was more action, there was more excitement, right? And these were things that by design were intentionally set in place, right? Some of the critiques of year one were that a lot of the stories were slow and it just, to audiences in general, maybe not as exciting as they could have been. So there were some changes implemented with year two, obviously, as we all know, and it came out as exactly by design as originally intended. That's why Freddie was sort of brought on board, was to liven things up a little bit and beef up the pace, and add a little humor, right? Which were all things that were lacking in year one. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, and the interesting thing is Space 1999, when it actually premiered, it was back in 1975. It was towards if the official premiere was in August of 1975 in LA, at least in the US. And I believe it was September 4th of 75 in the UK. But in that time frame, it seemed, I mean, back then, I mean, my God, I know you were saying you were 6 years old. I was like 9 years old at the time. But in that 3 month period of time, there was a lot of things that were going on behind the scenes, because those first 24 episodes, as we've talked about in the past, had already been filmed. They were shot between December of 73 and March of 74. And then production had been completed. And then it was a matter of the distribution. Originally, they wanted to distribute the show for the 74 season, but the networks had rejected it, sadly, because they had their own things going on. ABC was doing the second season of the $6 Million Man. CBS had opted to go with Planet of the Apes. NBC was hesitant because of Star Trek having been canceled in '69. And they just really didn't want to go with live action with Star Trek, as they did with Star Trek back then. NBC, ironically enough, was preparing for the second season of the animated series of Star Trek, which premiered in '74. But anyway, the gears were in motion. There was a lot of changes because of what had happened with Jerry Anderson and Sylvia Anderson. Sylvia, as we know, was an integral part of the production of the first season of Space 1999. Both her and Jerry had created it. They had their production company, Group 3 Productions, which they had with Reg Hill. That had disbanded, so it was basically Reg Hill and then Jerry Anderson. And they needed to, Jerry was in search of a producer. And what had happened was then he actually went to the US to find a writer or a head writer, an editor, story editor for Space 1999. He interviewed a lot of people. A lot of folks didn't work out, but then he was really taken with Fred Freiberger. And that's where all that really began. But part of the idea was that ITC said that there would have to be changes. And the selling point for the series, really a big part of it, was the character of the Metamorph, Maya. And that was something that Fred Freiberger had created. So we're not really, as Warren was saying, a lot of changes did take place. There were a lot of, critiques that were made. Brian, oh my goodness, I'm blanking that. Metamorph, Johnny Byrne. Johnny Byrne had done a critique of the 24 episodes. It was, his feelings on that. And it was, the intent was to move forward with the second series, but the intent also was to use the characters that were a part of the second series. And unfortunately, there were changes that were made with that. And almost right up into the end, sadly, Nick came on at the very last minute. They actually had a character name that was like a holder for the Chief Eagle pilot. It was Gary Wowski and then Mark McClintock. If you read the novelizations, you'll see those names in there. Some of the earlier scripts also utilized those names. Both Anton Phillips and Xenia Merton were going to be almost like we're not going to be contracted as they were, throughout the series. They would be on an episode by episode basis, which was the reason why that Anton was only in the 2 episodes, which would have been the Metamorph and the Exiles, because after that, he wasn't under contract, and the same with Xenia. So a lot of differences, but as you were saying, Warren, we're here to celebrate the series. And, it is a 50-year-old series. So we're going to point out things that, we'll give our feedback. We are not, and I'm just going to say this once because it needs to be said. And Warren was kind of being delicate with it. I'll be the one that's a little bit more direct with it. We're not year 2 bashers. I love certain episodes of year 2. There's some episodes I'm like, but there are some that are really favorites. And there's some that I wish they had taken to the next level and maybe done 2-part episodes with, because there's so much that we can explore with this. And they definitely open the doors with a lot of things. So anyway, just want to put that out there. We're not going to say this disclaimer each week because it'll get old really quickly, but it's necessary since this is our premiere episode of the second season of our show. It's important that the folks out there know that. So, have an open mind. Just like with season 1, there were episodes that we loved, and there were episodes that, they could have been better. It's the reality of it. But
part of the fun with those episodes, Ryan, and very well said. But I mean, it was a lot of fun having the different variety of guests on at the same time.
Absolutely.
Right? And we kind of played it loosey goosey a little bit, because some segments we'd have guests on that really like that particular episode, and
Mhm.
sometimes not, right, to give that opposing point of view as well, right? So that's all we're going to be doing again in year two. And as Roy said, yeah, it's within context of the series. We're going to have a lot of fun with these segments, and but just so everybody knows, it's all, I mean, in my mind, I've said it time and time again, although in theory, even though year one is my preference, year two is still near and dear to me. And I much prefer year two of space over so many other 1970s science fiction productions. Like, it's still, to me, it's in a class of its own, right?
Yeah, and the other thing I'd like to add to that is a lot of folks feel that Space 1999 is only the first 24 episodes. And here's the thing, this is another very important point that I want to point out. I personally, and I don't want to speak for you, Warren, but you can agree or disagree with me, which I think you'll agree with me. It's never our intention to say you have to think the way that we do, because that's the fun of enjoying the genres, the shows, and that goes with anything. If you enjoy it, that's, at the end of the day, that's what the most important thing is, that you really enjoy it. It for whatever reason, it brings a smile to your face, and you know what, it's something that you enjoy. And the fact that we're actually talking about a show that's 50 years old, I mean, it doesn't happen all the time. I mean, there's not a lot I mean, I've got my list of shows that I could probably rattle off, but you know what? I probably, and I'm not knocking anything from today, but I just don't watch things today to the extent that I used to watch stuff from the past.
Yeah.
But anyway, for me, Space 1999 is comprised of 48 episodes, and they were filmed between 73 and 76, and that's just me personally. And if anybody feels differently, you're entitled. That's okay. We can, and another cliche term, we can agree to disagree, but the most important thing is that we just have fun doing it, and just are able to talk about it. So
No, 100%. And Roy, you know what? I just thought of a couple other things during this opening segment. Number one, you'd mentioned the Johnny Byrne reviews, the critique that Johnny did for year one, and those, of course, were discovered in the plethora of Martin Landau documents that came. Sort of fell into our lap, over the last few years. And of course, those have been passed along to Martin Willie now to be archived in the catacombs. But one other interesting tidbit, and I don't think a lot of people realize this, yourself included, but I discovered in going through those documents myself that actually Freddie Freiberger was in consideration for year one.
oh,
So there was connection there, and his name was bounced around a few times. So it wasn't a matter of Jerry flew over in between year one and year two to meet this guy and lock him. There'd already been some talk and correspondence previous to that, believe it or not.
interesting.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I did not know that.
it really is. And that's where I think they kind of were under the gun. They had to make a snap decision. And because of that, it was so easy to onboard Fred for year two.
Mm. Yeah, because there was the groundwork had been already laid out. Interesting.
Yeah. And the only other thing I was going to say is it's really interesting time-wise. We're talking about the 50th anniversary and the 50th anniversary of this episode and filming. It's always been fascinating to me to consider how close year two was in advance of Star Wars coming out in 77. And it's just, I've always had to wonder, if Star Wars would have hit a few months earlier into theaters, right? What would have happened? Would there have been a year three? Who knows, right?
It's all about timing. It really is. And well, look at it this way, and this is something we can definitely talk about too. And a lot of folks, a lot of fans know this. I mean, in fact, I had Brian Johnson on my show, my God, almost 5.5 years ago, and he had talked about this, where George Lucas came to the set of Space 1999 and pretty much wanted him for Star Wars. And what had happened was, the day before, he had actually signed the contract for year two to do special effects work on Space 1999. So there's something right there. Could you imagine Space 1999 without Brian Johnson? I mean, it's crazy. And there's that Star Wars connection again too that you were just talking about.
And it was year two that actually prevented Brian from working on Star Wars, where he went on to work on Empire. Right?
Yeah, and then him and his team won the Academy Award too.
He was George's first choice for
Yep.
Empire. because he'd had to turn down
Yeah,
from
that's
Star
pretty amazing.
or not. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
for sure. Well, listen, Roy, you and I have actually chatted on for well over 15 minutes just on this opening monologue almost. But listen, we've got a bunch of people joining us today, and you're very proficient at this. Why don't you say hello to a few people out there?
Yeah, so I want to thank the folks that are out there that are tuning in. We always like to try to do that right from the get-go. So I see David is out there joining us from Ultima Thule, aka Canada. Welcome, David. E. Robert Dunn is out there joining us from North Miami Beach. Nice and warm down there, I hope. And Andy Tucker is out there. Hey, Andy, thanks for being out there. He's joining us from California. And I see Chris Michael Dalton is out there. Chris, welcome, joining us. And Brian is joining us from the UK. Welcome, Brian. Great to see you out there. Randy Lee is joining us from Wisconsin, saying greetings from the cold darkness of winter. Yeah, I can identify with that. Chris, are you in Kentucky? Or I'm pretty sure you are, but I'm guessing. And Chris even said, I remember when year 2 premiered during the 1976-77 television season. Absolutely. And May is also joining us from Canada. Welcome, May. Great to see you out there. And Stephen Redder is out there. Hey, Stephen, good to see you out there. And he commented real quickly. He said, although I was excited to see the second year premiere, all kept thinking was, where's Bergman along with May, Mission, and the crew? Absolutely. And we'll be talking about that too, Stephen. So yeah, hold on to that thought. Alphen Peter is out there. He's saying A.B. Chrysalis and Sand Spectre are favorites year 2 episodes. Absolutely. Totally agree with you, Alphen Peter. We'll be circling back with you as well. I see Simon Jones is also joining us. Welcome, Simon. And I think I caught up on everybody, and then we'll come back to some of the other commentary that was mentioned. But just wanted to give a shout out to everyone and make sure we said hello.
Yeah, you bet. That's awesome. So listen, Roy, we're also in the presence of a very special guest today, aren't we?
Yes, I think you should bring her in and you should introduce her, Warren.
Oh, for sure. So today, we are thrilled to be joined by Missy O'Neill. Hello, Missy.
Hey.
Hi, Missy. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Welcome.
Nice to see you. And Missy, of course, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Metamorph is one of your favorite episodes, correct?
One of them, yes. Probably one of the last episodes that I actually saw, because I missed it. But, we talked about that. But yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Well, wonderful.
Go ahead, Warren. Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so in regards to that, we're really excited to have you on to talk about that. And we're going to do a deep dive into the Metamorph in just a second. One of the things I like to do usually is read the ITC summary for this episode. And it goes like this: terror from a doomed planet, a planet of death, despite advanced scientific technology, but a new life for a beautiful girl who has learned the secrets of molecular transformation. Wonder who that could be. No, I mean, the character of Maya was, again, we were talking about, the buildup and everything that was taking place. A lot of the behind the scenes. I mean, just going to cover a little bit more of the behind the scenes that was going on. And then we'll get into the heart of the episode. But a lot of the talk was, what was going to happen with, there was going to be a format change. Fred Freiberger had been brought on. And then we were hearing about through the newspapers. And I distinctively remember my parents, we lived in the area of Bergen County, which was in Wallington, New Jersey, which was like 45 minutes outside of New York City. So the Daily News, the New York Times. Space 1999 was getting a lot of coverage out of New York City because it was almost like New York was a hub for one of the major syndicated stations that was covering it, which was WPIX Channel 11. And Warren, you're talking about some of the books that, had come out. Bob Wood and then also David Hirsch had done a write-up with their books in regards to discussing, the behind the scenes of what was going on with that. And Martin Landau was even keeping track of any time the episodes had aired and had pretty much like almost a diary of that information, which was pretty cool to see. So with that said, there was a lot of news coming on about the changes, and then it was announced, sadly, that Barry Morse was not going to be returning as Victor Bergman, but then there was going to be this new character that was being introduced, and she was able to shift her shape into any type of animal or creature, and there was the anticipation of this episode coming on. So now, Missy, you said you saw this episode later on. You didn't see it when it first premiered. You kind of caught it later on.
I did not. Yeah, I did not know that year 2 existed.
Okay.
So I blundered into it one afternoon, and the episode I saw was, well, I don't know what the production order was, but it wasn't the Metamorph. So I had to wait until they cycled through everything to catch it because I missed it.
But when you did see it, what were your feelings about it? What in regards to because you kind of saw it out of order, because now we'll share with the audience. You said the first episode that you saw was All That Glisters, right?
Yeah, the very first scene of year 2 that I saw, and we talked about this, there was, because I didn't know what I was watching. Mm-hmm. So there was this, to my child mind, a rather cute dark-haired fella carrying a glowing meteorite. That was my introduction to year 2.
But you didn't realize it was Space 1999 at first, right?
I did not.
Awesome.
I knew nothing. I mean, because like everybody else, I saw the promos for year 1.
Right.
Year 1, great 24 episodes, great place, nice people, and then it was gone. And I knew nothing about year 2's existence. So it was out of sight, out of mind, on to the great next thing that kids do. And it was like one Saturday afternoon.
You were just sitting there flipping channels and suddenly.
No, I was on the phone with a friend.
Okay.
And I just walked into the living room, turned on the TV, and didn't change the channel or anything. Went back and sat on the couch. I'm talking to my friend. And I looked up and first scene, and I remember my thought was, well, this is not going to end well. Within 10 minutes, this guy's going to meet a grisly demise because it never ends well when one is carrying a glowing meteorite, right? And then I'm talking on the phone. I'm not paying any attention to what's on the TV. And, I even saw the bit where he carries the glowing meteorite into a room. To me, it was a room. I didn't know, still didn't know what I was watching. And I do remember thinking, well, this set kind of looks kind of familiar. I wonder where they used this before. Because my mind at that time thought, well, okay, all these TV shows borrow sets, change sets, whatever. So I was like, well, I've seen it in something before. And there was this blonde-haired woman. I had no idea. So, I'm back on the phone conversation, and I don't know what triggered it. I think it might have been an exterior shot of the eagle on the planet. And, I just remember thinking, holy shite, that's an eagle. I was like, what the heck, And I do remember, telling my friend, hey, I got to go. I got to watch this. I'll talk to you later. Bye. And I hung up on her and go turn the volume up on the TV so I could actually hear it and everything. And, at that point, it was like, well, okay, I am a happy child again.
Well, that's really a fascinating aspect, Missy, because we were discussing this yesterday, and I was blown away at the fact that, you know what, I've never thought of it from this perspective, but unless you see Metamorph first, right, and you just happen to flip upon this scene, it's like seeing Tony carrying this rock. You wouldn't have put 2 and 2 together because you wouldn't have seen the jackets before, right?
No.
So it makes complete sense that you were maybe oblivious until, like
And
you
you
said,
didn't see Moonbase Alpha. You didn't
right,
see the moon.
right, yeah,
So,
Right. And that's the only, and I asked this as a trivia question at the convention. That is the only episode that you were never on Moonbase Alpha.
mhm,
You see the moon at the very beginning when the eagle is,
leaving.
flying away from the moon, but everything else is planet based. So that's an excellent point. So I mean, the only characters really, well, it would have been Koenig, Helena, and then also Alan. But
Mhm.
as far as Tony and Maya, and then Dave
Yeah.
Riley, if
Like,
you
I
had,
had no idea who the guy in the
yeah,
cowboy hat was. I
yeah,
had no idea how the alien chick got mixed up with all
yeah,
these people,
right,
but
right, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and the cowboy, he was such a departure from anything else we'd seen on space before, right?
yeah.
So yeah,
So of
it
all the
makes
episodes to tune into that
right,
you
it makes a
saw,
lot of
and not only that, just catching it, mid show. I mean, you didn't catch it from the very beginning, because at least
no.
if you caught it from the beginning, it kind of, you would have seen the eagle. You know what I mean? You would have seen the
yeah,
opening credits. It would have all made sense. But
Mhm.
you kind of got thrown into an episode. Really, if you think about it, it's probably one of the ones where it's like worse. It's almost like you're in a vacuum chamber. Because it's like
Mhm.
there's nothing, no familiar surroundings. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I had no clue. I do remember at the end of the episode, I do remember thinking, well, I was wrong. This dude didn't meet a grisly demise because of a glowing meteor, right? But it didn't matter because, I was like, oh, okay, there's more Moonbase Alpha for me to watch. And, I was
no,
happy with that.
no, that's a great point. I'm seeing some of the comments come in. I want to say hi to Chris Trice. Chris is joining us from the UK. He did comment too, and I just wanted. He said, in fairness to Nick Alder, he could have carried on without Brian. That happened with Alien. I don't think there's any footage in the film Brian was involved with, as he'd moved on to Empire Strikes Back. But by then, as they reshot everything with the Nostromo in a different color, yeah, no, again, not to take away. Thanks for sharing that, Chris, and not to take away from Nick, because I mean, Nick Alder, I mean, the two of them were instrumental for Space 1999, and that's interesting to know too about in regards to Alien as well. I also see Francine is joining us from Connecticut. Hi, Francine. Thanks for being out there. Good to see you. And David commented and said, Maya could have easily been a caricature, but Catherine Schell did a fantastic job of making her a real addition to the cast. Great casting choice. Absolutely. Great point. And I remember her from the 1975 film in regards to, there was a lot of publicity around it, was Return of the Pink Panther. And as well as being in Space 1999 Guardian of Parade, the first season episode.
and that's very interesting, David. And to your point, Roy, I mean, we talked about that new character introduction and how much emphasis there was around Maya, but surprisingly, there was just as much hype around Catherine Schell. And I'm going to go back to those trades in the Hollywood Reporters,
Yep.
where the very first year two ads were promoting Catherine Schell with a picture of her, not even in Maya makeup. Right, they were really playing off her stardom, right, and brand name recognition, bringing her on board. And I remember that ad where, yeah, it's just a generic photo of her from, I think it's from the Pink Panther movie.
Yeah.
So,
No,
yeah.
excellent point, Warren. But let me see. Also, Jeff Rubel is joining us. Jeff, welcome. Jeff is joining us from Utah. And Simon is saying, Space 1999 was shown in Scotland with very little fanfare. As a child, it was a mystery to me. It obviously had very high production values, but where had it come from? Yeah, and that I've been reading a lot of the stuff too, that I guess, unfortunately, in the UK, it sounds like it really was limited in regard to the way it was broadcast. And I know Chris is out there, and Brian Jackson is out there. So definitely more commentary in regards to that. But thanks for sharing that as well, Simon. Much appreciated. And Simon also said season 2 came as a complete shock. Someone had made more of them.
Well, and you know what, the other thing I was thinking of, just discussing this with Missy and yourself, Roy, is that, the turnaround between year 1 and year 2 was very quick because of the fact that year 1 was delayed that full year, right?
Right.
So yeah, year 2 went into production virtually just as year 1 was airing. So yeah, the very next September we had a new batch of episodes.
Yeah, and that's one thing too, just to remind everybody, because usually with a production, and it's not even done this way anymore, but back in the day, a show would premiere in September, and then what would happen would it would go generally until like maybe May, maybe June. In the 70s, the 80s, I'll even say 90s, episodes were going 24 episodes for a 1 hour show. The one immediately comes to mind is Star Trek Next Generation. I'll use that one because that's 87 into 94. So production would generally start in May. So they would be ahead of the game. And then they would have those episodes because they had the filming that would take place. Then they'd have to go through pre-production, and then they'd have the episodes ready. Even Star Trek, the original series, did the same thing. They would start in May, and then they would film until maybe December. Sometimes it would go into January, and then they were done. To your point, Warren, with 1999, starting in December of 73, and then they not only shot it didn't finish like in like 12 months period of time. It took them 15 months. So it was actually a very long period of time. Then they delayed it. They had the 24 episodes, and then they were trying to find, essentially a network that was going to broadcast them, which really no changes could be made to the stories because they already had been filmed. With season 2, series 2, almost about the same. The episodes were, I think they came out, I think it was September 26th, 28th for year 2 in 1976. By that time, they had 3 more months to complete the shooting because it was in October, sadly, that I think it was during the filming of the Seance Spectre that the word came down that the show was not going to be continued. There was not going to be a 3rd series. So it's interesting how the show premiered in September and then in October, pretty much it got canceled. And that's discussed in David Hirsch and Bob's book.
Right. And it wasn't so much that the episodes, because it was still September to September, right? Year 1 to year 2, which is the normal cycle for a TV series back in the day. But right. I guess what I'm saying is that the pickup for year 2 came so quickly, right?
Yes. Good point.
And then subsequently, it's cancellation, right? So quickly after year 2 had only just begun airing.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, Missy, did you have a favorite? I mean, we're talking about the Metamorph, obviously, but did you have a lot of favorite year 2 episodes, just out of curiosity?
Journey to Where. Absolutely. Actually, I like them all. Immunity Syndrome is also a favorite.
Yeah.
Data Cloud is also a favorite.
Yeah.
Dorcons is a favorite.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, what was it about the Metamorph that, when you were able to finally go back and rewatch it? Is there anything in particular about Metamorph that strikes you to this day?
I like the whole aspect of the whole show. Because obviously you've got these people on a yeeted moon still trying to survive, right? And then they encounter planet Psychon and they meet Mentor. And I kind of think Mentor is like a master manipulator. And I really like the aspect of the man was so delusional that he thought Psyche was going to fix his planet. And then he runs across John Koenig, who's like, no, we're not standing for that, right? And I really like that aspect of Mentor thought he was going to get away with what he wanted to do. And John Koenig's stubborn John, no. And so I like that aspect of seeing, what Koenig was going to do to stop this man. So that part of the story I really liked. And then, of course, you've got Maya, who obviously has no idea what her daddy's doing in reality. So again, he's manipulating his daughter. he's manipulating Koenig. We don't know how he manipulated all the other people that had come to Psychon, that he fed their minds to Psyche, you know, but obviously he was getting away with it. So, you know, I like the whole story aspect.
The Metamorph really could have been a 2-part episode. And I think that one of the things I'd say is if it was, and I don't want to say if it was filmed today because it wasn't, it was filmed 50 years ago, but it's a shame that in a lot of shows didn't really, well, they did do it in the 70s. So I'm wrong to say that, but it's a shame that they didn't give it an opportunity to be a 2-hour episode, because there could have been so much more backstory that could have been told in regards to everything that happened with Psychon. I mean, we did get a glimpse of it in the Rules of Luton when Koenig is alone with Maya and they're fighting for survival, and, you know, having that moment where they're basically talking about their past. So it gave for great backstory in regards to that, but not enough. Yeah.
Not definitely enough. And that's what I would really like to know. Like, to me, I would like, okay, how old exactly was Maya when all this, you know, destruction and stuff happened? What does she actually remember? You know, which would depend upon how old she was, you know, when all that stuff happened. And again, this girl is just, you know, she's so delusional. Bless her heart. She has no idea what daddy's doing.
Yeah, and the writer's guide, if I remember correctly, I think they say that she's almost like in her early 20s. I mean, she's really, really young. And I mean, younger than what, you know, Catherine Schell, I think, was maybe 31 years old when she was portraying Maya, whereabouts. So I think that in the writer's guide, at least anyway, that they had her being almost much younger. So I guess maybe that would be more of, but Maya was, well, Tony says in the one episode, he calls her naive, but she really wasn't that naive. But it's just the way, but she even said she got caught up in Mentor's dreams. So she wanted all of that to happen, and, you know, for Psychon to be revitalized and you know, go from there. So I guess you could kind of say that that's part of the reason why that, you know, she, you know, listened to him, and it was her dad and everything with that.
Well, see, and I think this is my personal opinion. I think that it had been quite some time since any other Psychons were on the planet. I think that. Now, other people may or may not agree with that, but I think she was down there on that planet for quite some time with just daddy. And of course, her mother had passed away. We learned that in the Rules of Luton. So how long had it been since she didn't have a mother? Her brother, I think they also say she had a brother, right? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So how long?
Dorzak. That they mentioned.
Yeah. So how long was that poor girl on that planet by herself? Now, granted, she's intelligent. We do, you know, obviously we know that. But how long was she down on that planet by herself with no other social contact other than with her father? And you kind of have to wonder, she does make the comment that in the Metamorph that, you know, the Alphans are quite unlike any of the others. But how many others did they actually make contact with? How much time did she even get to spend with some of these aliens before Mentor sucked their brains? So, you know, I just kind of, my personal opinion is she was there by herself with daddy for quite some time. You know, some people may agree with that. Some people might not.
No, those are great questions. And it really, those different ideas would definitely add to the character. And it could have been something that could have been further, you know, explored. So no, I totally agree with you in regards to that.
That's why there's fan fiction.
Right. And there's a lot of fan fiction out there. Absolutely.
Yes, yes, there is.
David commented and said, ITC wanted individual 1-hour episodes without a story arc, which was somewhat normal back then, but not how many shows are now, made to be shown in any order. No, great point, David. And it's funny. One of my favorite comments is it's all about the balance, because I used to get excited when, like, if I was watching Star Trek, especially the original series, well, watching Star Trek, that is the original series. And if they had a reference to a previous episode. I think they did it maybe twice in the series, and the fact that they did that, it was like, wow, this is really cool. But now, fast forward like almost like 60 years later with different shows, and it's like out of control. There are no independent stories, and it again, it's in my opinion, I should say, it's about the balance.
Nowadays, I think storytelling on TV. Sorry, guys, it's so linked from week to week or episode to episode. You can't miss one, right?
You can't miss.
It's a whole story arc.
I'm talking about this, and bro, I know what you're talking about when it comes to Star Trek TOS. But Missy, the other thing that I really appreciated about Metamorph is that later on in year 2, as you referenced, those little tidbits sort of started to create this in-universe continuity.
Yeah.
Right. And it was, to even in a space warp, when you see the Maya turned into the crazed mentor, or in Dorzak, when you learn a lot more about Psychon and its history. I thought those moments were really fascinating. And of course, but to your point, there was a lot laid out in Metamorph that could have been developed in an interesting way.
See, I think the Metamorph and the Dorcons could have been fabulous 2-part episodes.
And Dorcons, of course, really, really builds upon the Psychon lore.
Yeah. There was so much that could have been explored with that, and just the Dorcon race. My goodness. But again, it's the direction, and it's sad. Those later year 2 episodes, and we've talked about this, and we'll talk about this as we progress through the show. The later year 2 episodes, I just thought were fantastic. It's really sad that there was not that opportunity for a season 3 or a year 3, because I really think
what's really interesting about that, of course, is that we were able to also confirm definitively here in the last couple of years that there was a planned year 3 spinoff with Maya.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. That where she would have been the focus. She would have been the central character, and that's proof to the point that they were bringing her on board, and she ended up being a very popular character, and to the point where they almost considered giving her own show.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
Possibly.
A lot of what ifs.
I see MCA 127 is out there. I just want to say hi. And MCA 127 commented saying, I always wonder why John Hugg's character was brought in. He's kind of a duplicate of Nick's character, and I always assumed he was planned to replace Carter, and they decided to keep him on with Nick. Interesting enough, I don't know if you know this, Warren, but John had actually tried out for audition for the part of Tony Vidashi.
Oh, I don't think I did. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
That would not have worked.
Yeah. As did
Bill Murray.
What?
Not Bill Murray, but there was another actor. His name is Bill Murray was to play Simon Hayes. Simon Hayes was the original character name for that would later become Tony Vidashi, believe it or not.
Sorry, I just ran away. I was going to get a book because I couldn't remember his name. Thank goodness I have pants on.
Yeah, that's right, Warren. Get us thrown off.
But you just sparked something in my mind, Roy. Jess Conrad, who was in Lambda Factor, originally tried or auditioned for the role of Tony Vidashi.
Yeah. Because he has a book out now. I like to give plugs to everybody that has books. I don't know if anybody out there has this. I'm using this as source material. So Space 1999, The Vault, if you have it, if you don't. But one of the things in here, and if you look in the corner, this is the actor and actress. His name is actually, believe it or not, Bill Murray. Right. And that actress, her name is Prunella Gee, Gee.
Yeah.
So what happened was the two of them, she was a consideration for Maya, I guess right up to the end, as was Catherine Schell. And then obviously Tony Anhalt and then Catherine Schell. So they both read for the parts of Tony and Maya, or Simon Hayes and Maya, I should say.
But these actually got into costume and they were doing some screen testing.
Yeah, in fact, that costume that he's wearing is a year one tunic. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah. So anyway, just wanted to share that. Yeah, it's interesting to find out all this, behind the scenes information though. But
And we're still digging it up after 50 years.
yeah, makes you wonder what we're gonna find in the next 50.
Crazy. Crazy, hey? So Misty, just out of curiosity, now you'd mentioned fan fiction. So, in your opinion with year 2, I mean, were you always I don't know how they say it nowadays, but were you on board with the whole Maya and Tony thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Back in the day, a very younger, stupid version of me wrote some really bad fan fiction. And then after my husband passed away, I rediscovered Space 1999 after like about 20 years. And interestingly enough, one night I needed to have something just to get through the night. And I turned to the Beta Cloud. I don't really remember watching much of it. I have about 6 to 8 months of my life that I don't remember after what happened. But as time went on, and I was watching more of the show and being more coherent about what I was watching and stuff, I started writing again. And so, yeah, I've got both original romance novels in the works. And I told Roy this, I have a whole series, a whole novel set, I guess you could call it, of fan fiction. And a lot of it is Tony and Maya. And
I think they played off each other very well, and I know you'd mentioned Beta Cloud because I know there's a number of other fans that really gravitate, who are Tony and Maya advocates, if you will. Beta Cloud, of course, being that crucial episode where things they sort of made it official, right? So yeah,
they have a great chemistry on. Yeah. I don't know, obviously I have no clue what was going on when the cameras weren't on these people. But I would like to think that the whole cast got along well when they weren't filming. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. But all of year 2, the whole ensemble cast, I thought had great chemistry. There really was.
Yeah, I agree with you what you're saying. It really came, when they're on screen, everything just like comes out and they really interact very, very well. And it really flows. I mean, it really, really does. I mean, I'm totally with you in regards to Tony and Maya. I mean, the two of them, they're
adorable together.
Yeah. I mean, you can see sometimes there's actors and actresses. It just doesn't seem right. You just don't see them together. It feels
very forced.
And it wasn't that way with them.
No, and the whole ensemble throughout year 2 never, I don't think, ever really felt forced between anybody in any scene. So
nothing that really showcased. In fact, what's interesting, we're talking about this. If you watch Bringers of Wonder, Part 2, at the very end, when they're in the command center and Alan or Koenig is kind of going by his chair, and then what happens is I think Maya had said to Tony, she's talking about the alien because he's saying, how did it survive, and then she said,
it's like a camel and it stores oxygen.
Right, exactly. And then he's like, put me down. And then she's like, they're giggling. And then what happens is the scene goes over to Koenig, but then it comes back. And what's happening is they're kind of getting situated by the desk, and Tony is crossing over to Maya, and she sticks her tongue out at him.
Yes.
And it's just like a funny thing, and then he laughs, but it's like you have to. It happens so quickly, but it's just like it was kind of like a natural moment, is I guess what I'm trying to say. So it wasn't forced at all.
And if you watch year 2, what I think is funny, Tony sneaks in a heck of a lot of little kisses that you really have to be watching for them. But that dude snuck a lot of kisses in.
He did it in the Seance. I caught it for the first time in the Seance Spectre when he's holding Maya after they just get into the eagle and she's a plant. She turned back into her, and then they're waiting to see how John is because Alan makes the comment about the oxygen,
starvation.
and then he gives her like a kiss on the forehead or something. Yeah, to your point. So yeah,
and Bringers of Wonder. There's one. Right after Alan and the 2 guys lift off to supposedly go back to Earth, there's all the people in Command Center.
Yep.
And Tony sneaks in a kiss in there too.
Yeah.
You really have to be watching for it though, because they're kind of in the background part. But
those scenes are fun to watch because those scenes always add the realism to a show, because it's like those are the scenes people really don't concentrate on because there's like a lot of commotion, but the extras, background performers, however you want to label, and the people that are even stars of the show, when all that is going on, they really sell it, because to your point, if something like that is happening, that's selling the moment. That's the moment that's taking place, and which is kind of cool.
I thought of 2 other examples here talking about Tony and Maya as to how strong their on-screen chemistry was. And in relation to some of the humor in year 2, this is where, again, guys, I completely agree that with those 2 characters, nothing was forced and it just came so natural. So the one example is, I love the scene in Journey to Where. Involving
the beer.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Right. Jack the Ripper, right?
Yeah.
And the other one is in Bringers of Wonder, where Diana Morris is talking to Tony and Maya's in the background and she's sort of turns into the creature. And
yeah, that's a cute moment.
So a couple of good
examples. Maya sticks her tongue out at Tony in that one too, in Journey to Where.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Right. It just is, it's all of that, everything that's taken place. Chris commented again. He said, can an injured Psychon transform into a healthy Psychon? Why only an hour? Where does Maya's mask go? When she transforms into a mouse, how does she operate with a mouse brain? The problem is the more you analyze it, the more ludicrous the idea is. I had preferred Maya just to stay Maya, maybe with a more realistic gift. Pernilla Gee was the nurse that the health farm Bond hooked up with in A Never Say Never Again. Oh, okay. I did not know that. No, and that's a good point about the whole thing. And I think, obviously, one thing that immediately comes to mind is they did the whole thing with the hour limitation, because there's a plot device, because then they could use that, to create conflict. And they didn't even really adhere to it, too, because Maya in the Tabor transformed from one animal to another. I think when she was in prison, then she was a dog, and then she turned into a little ferret, and she's trying to eat her way out, and then she turned back to Maya. So it was something that they used in the Rules of Luton, and then they kind of went with it. So I get.
And then the Metamorph at the very end, she goes from what is it, the bird to the dog to the gorilla,
right?
And
perfect.
My thought is on that one is, maybe under normal circumstances, maybe she normally would not be able to do that kind of thing.
Under duress.
But stress, because if you think about it, she basically was, her.
Well, Bringers of Wonder, Part 2, when she was trying to turn back into Maya, she was under the stress, and she was just trying to turn back into herself. She couldn't do it, to your point, because of the stress of the situation. And she almost didn't even, make it.
Yeah, so they were inconsistent on that, and
yeah.
So that would be like one of my dislikes of year 2.
Yeah, they didn't follow their own rules in that
Right.
sense, and that was something. If I remember correctly, I believe didn't. Yeah, he wrote it as a pseudonym, Charles Woodgrove, right? Fred Freiberger for Rules of Luton.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was one of the 3 episodes he did. He did that one. He did Space Warp, and what was the other one he did? There was another one, I think.
Beta Cloud.
Oh, Beta Cloud. Yeah, yeah.
How could you forget that?
I like the Beta Cloud. I mean, that's always been a favorite. I mean,
It makes no sense.
Yeah, and I mean, in a lot of ways, it's almost a it's a year 2 version of the year 1 episode End of Eternity. You can't destroy the indestructible.
Well, see, I think on that one they had like as a writer, I think that they had a rough draft version and they were kind of like forced into using it as a filmed episode. And then, of course, as they're filming it, they realized they didn't have enough stuff on camera, to make a full episode. So my ridiculous opinion is that while he's down having lunch in the commissary, Freddie Friedberger, which we kids always called him Friedberger because we didn't know how to pronounce it. So he was scribbling things on napkins at lunchtime and then taking them back and saying, okay, we can turn, it's like ridiculous on that one. But in the end, it is a fun episode.
Yeah, it's what a lot of people say. It's their guilty pleasure. I just want to say thanks, May, for joining us, and yeah, thanks for joining us on the rewind. We appreciate it, and we will talk to you soon. So thanks for checking in with us. Much appreciated. Harold Pelham is joining us. I want to say hi to Harold. Welcome, Harold. And also Dennis Chevalier is out there from Canada as well, joining us. So welcome, Dennis. I wanted to show just a couple of things that just a couple of photos, and some of these we're already talked about, Maya, and but I'm going to bring this up on the screen. But in regards to some of the things that were added for year 2,
some of the changes,
yeah. So obviously Maya was one. I always like that shot too with Maya, because there's a photo with her with the aliens that she changed into, and then there's a photo with her without her makeup on. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah,
just to showcase that. And then also the laser defense ring. I mean, this is something that was introduced at the beginning of the episode after Eagle 1 had been with Bill Fraser and Torrance had been taken. They'd been taken. Now, in regards to Eagles, for me personally, Eagles of all Eagles, this is my personal favorite. This is Eagle 4.
Equipped with additional booster units.
Absolutely. It is so freaking cool. I love these shots.
Yeah, those were great. The effects team certainly did up the game a little bit in year 2. I think everybody's in agreement of that as well.
Yeah.
Beautiful work.
Yeah, definitely. It's a shame that we didn't get to see more of that in later episodes.
Yeah.
David is saying he liked the laser cannon.
Yeah.
MCL21 said the novelization of Beta Cloud is like a horror movie. The violence is brutal. I haven't read that in a long time. I'll have to go back and check that out. Huh. Simon is saying the noise that escapes Dave Prowse when he is hit with that oxygen cylinder in a delicate place makes the Beta Cloud worth watching alone.
Do you guys think that is really an F-bomb that we hear?
It probably is. I'm curious. Whatever. I think Simon agrees with that.
I mean, I think it's, if you really crank the volume up, I really think it sounds like the F-bomb.
He doesn't sound happy, that's for sure.
No, but I have to wonder. Okay, I have to wonder: is Tony's aim so darn bad? Or did he maybe where was he aiming when he threw that?
And you actually hear that hit the ground too. That thing was not light.
Oh. Wow.
Dennis said he was shoveling. It's like Ultima Thule here.
Another
Yeah,
reference from Canada and Ultima Thule. Yeah, yeah. Dave Asherson said the same thing.
yeah.
Boy, I think I noticed my sister Heather out there too, so I just wanted to give her a quick
Oh,
shout.
Heather, I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
didn't get to
no,
say
that's
hi to
okay.
Heather.
That's no.
Chris said Nick Alder took over from Harry Oakes as special
Oakes.
effects lighting cameraman in series 2. Okay. Thanks for sharing that too, Chris.
You know, overall, I mean, my Metamorph is one of my definite year 2 go-to episodes, Roy. And
Warren, before you go on, and I hate to interrupt you, can I ask you one question? Just
sure.
Something I wanted to interject. Did you see Metamorph when it first premiered?
Yes, from all recollections, yes, because I do remember, as you and I discussed, I saw the commercial trailers a few weeks out. So, and my memory from being that young was so fleeting, or is so fleeting to the, but I distinctly remember watching the Metamorph, because I remember shortly afterwards, like the week following seeing it, I was doodling and drawing and doing some artwork, and I remember trying to draw the eagle flying away from Cyclone at the end after it had exploded. It was such a powerful image. So I'm pretty sure I did see it live. Yes.
Right there.
There we go. Yeah. And then boom, right?
Yep.
Yeah. But no, what I was going to say really quickly is that overall, it was a very strong opener. And regardless of the changes, Roy, you'd mentioned something about the script by Johnny Byrne here, right?
Yep.
Now, so it was worked on for quite a while. And I remember it going under a couple different names. I think one was The Biological Soul, before it was turned to The Metamorph. But Johnny was involved at every step of the process. And, when you look at it, it's sort of on par with, like, it's like Missy had mentioned, just the fact that Mentor being essentially a psychopath, and Maya being there were some really sort of dark elements to that very first episode, right? Which were very in tune with some of the best of year 1, tonally, right? And I think, like, and even there wasn't as much of the lighthearted humor, like there wasn't a funny coda at the end or things like that. It was pretty serious, right? And I think on that level, I think that's what drew a lot of people in, because it was a really intense sort of opening episode to the series.
I mean, for me personally, I followed Space 1999 from the first season when it premiered in 1975, and all the promos that were out about it, and all the advertisements on WPIX 11, and about this new show that was coming out. So I saw, from beginning to end with that. Then with year 2 happening, and then again reading, and again I was 10 years old, but you were 6, so there's that 4 years at that time is a big difference, 6 or 7. But I was anticipating. I remember we were at my grandparents' house, and my grandparents lived in Queens, New York, and we were going to be driving back. It was going to be like a 45-minute drive, and I was just like, I kept checking the time, and I knew when we would generally leave, and the show I think was going to be on like at 7 o'clock. It was a Sunday night. And I was just, I was kind of bugging my mom, and then, she was like, we're here. But anyway, we wound up leaving. We got home like within 5 minutes. I had my Panasonic tape recorder. I was ready to go, and it came on, and I was just like so glued to the TV, and just taking, the opening credits. Here there was no teaser. It was the opening credits. That right away was different. You just directly went into that. It gave us a small summary of what it actually had happened. And then the next thing you're seeing, Dr. Russell doing the whole status report. And then, you see Command Center, and you have that special shot, the shot that they didn't do very often, where you're seeing, the front with the screen, and then they did they matted in the Cyclone on top of it on the screen, and you're seeing. I was like looking right away for who's going to be there, and I right away saw, obviously I saw Koenig, we saw Helena already, saw Sandra, and you saw Alan Carter. Those were the familiar faces. And then Tony, they were doing different. You were seeing him in different shots. He really didn't talk in that first in the beginning, in the opening. I don't want to even say it was a teaser, because I guess you can consider like a teaser. But and then they had the whole sequence that took place, and it was just like absorbing all of that, and then you're digressing, processing everything. But I remember missing Paul not being there, and and Kano, and wondering what happened to them. And of course, Professor Bergman, I knew that he wasn't going to be in it because I was reading this, that was the big thing, that, Catherine Schell was taken over, and then Barry Morse wasn't going to be on the show. But as far as the secondary characters, we really didn't know at that point. And it was very good to see that at least, Alan Carter was there because he was always one of my personal favorites. And then it was in Sandra, and then also Bob Mathias, Dr. Bob. But
one of the things that got me when I finally saw the Metamorph,
what's that?
And I have it on cassette tape because that's one episode I did record. The part where Sandra is telling Tony to be patient with them. They've only been married 2 months.
Yep.
I still have this on the cassette tape. I'm like, Bill's married? Because by that time I had seen all the episodes. The whole way through, I'm thinking Bill's just another single Eagle pilot.
Right. Good point. Yes.
And
because they never really reference that ever again, do they?
No, she disappeared out of the airlock. We don't know what happened.
And it's funny, John Hug, he being interviewed, and this is going back a ways too. He'd even joke about it and say, "I must not have been that good of a husband," because he's like, I'm always offline and stuff. I mean, they're not even in a scene together, really. I mean, he's holding her picture and and everything, and they have that nice scene together where on the monitor at the end. That was a nice touch. But yeah, to your point, so that's interesting because you didn't get to see it from the you saw that episode later. And that says a lot about continuity too, about, when you see different episodes.
She's never mentioned again.
Yep.
I had no idea. I thought he was a single Eagle pilot. And then we have the other thing where Sandra only gets called Sandra one time in year 2.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah. So at least Tony got that honor, because he's like, what did he say? That's when they're talking about they can't get anything scan wise unless
he's asking her about scanning, keep scanning Sandra, I think he says.
Yes, something like that. Yes. Yeah. And it's like we're not going to be able to read anything unless they want us to read it. So
right. And for me, here was the thing that was which really was annoying. Channel 11 was editing the episodes. What they did was, because of commercial time, the episodes are 52 minutes. And I've even talked to David Hirsch about this. Now, granted, what had been edited, the choices that were made were good choices because it didn't disrupt the continuity of the episode. However, it took away from like background details. So that whole piece where they they're heading to the travel tube, and then Koenig is with Annette and says, "Don't worry, we'll bring him back." And then she says, "Thank you."
Mm-hmm.
WPIX 11 cut that. They cut where the travel tube is going to the Eagle. They cut when everybody boards the Eagle. They cut when the Eagle lifts off. That's where where it actually comes in back is when Koenig says, "Mentor, it's John Koenig. We're at rendezvous point." That's where. So when I actually saw the episode months later on the rewind, when we had moved out to this area, on channel 17 out of Philly, they had that extra footage in there. And I was like, whoa, this is really cool because, they have that really cool, they're playing that theme when the Eagle 4 is taking off and it goes past the radar dish that's turning.
Spinning around.
Yeah. In fact, that is a special effects note. That was actually from the Altaris from whatchamacallit, Into Infinity.
Yeah, really.
Day after tomorrow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but
as were a lot of the panels, even in Command Center,
which you are a proud owner of one. Am I right, Warren?
That's right. Yeah.
Yep. Hey, I want to say hi to some of the other people that are joining us. Mark Anthony Craig is out there. Mark, welcome. He's saying the first episode of Space 1999 I ever saw. Love at first sight. My whole life at that age, 13, became centered on the show and how I had to endure the rest of the week in between episodes. Thanks for joining us too, Mark. Great to see you out there. Nancy's joining us. Hey, Nancy. Nancy's joining, and Mark is joining us from the UK. Nancy is joining us from Canada. Nancy says, as a kid, seeing the dramatic changes in the Metamorph was super exciting, and I immediately loved the addition of Maya. I think the musical score throughout the episode had a huge impact for me as well. I loved it. Nancy, thank you for bringing that up too, because that's something we haven't touched upon is Derek Wadsworth. I mean, we loved Barry Gray's music, orchestral theme, bigger than life. But in regards to Derek Wadsworth, it was definitely a different approach. But I think overall for year 2, it was the right approach. Although if you do own a Blu-ray set, and I think the Blu-ray set from the UK has one episode, and I think it was Seed of Destruction, where they took the music from year 1 and they placed it into Seed of Destruction for that year 2
cut
episode.
the whole episode because I think they do a teaser at the beginning and then the credits. So they
Yeah.
the whole episode as a year 1 what if, right?
Yeah. And it works. It really, it's different, but it's different though. It's different.
It's okay. The more jarring thing for me was seeing some of the compilation movies, Roy, in the 80s, where they actually and in Cosmic Princess, right, which is Metamorph and Space Warp, right, with Derek's score, they suddenly a couple of scenes drop in Barry Gray's music, and the two together is really jarring.
It is. And what's even really, really jarring, which is really like, is Sybil Danning introducing those. I'm like, why is she here?
No, you know what? Derek's music. I mean, it was again. I'm going to go back to what they were trying to do with year 2 and the changes was everything was more upbeat, and
Yes.
from a musical perspective, it's up tempo, right? It's more exciting, right? And it drives the narrative, right? As much as the two drive each other, right? There's a correlation there with the music itself.
MCA20L21 said, my least favorite part of the episode is when Mentor appears as a hologram and warns the Alphans not to go against him. Then the Lou Picard character suggests doing just that and gets killed. Yeah, that was, to your point, Warren, there's a lot of year 1 tone in that episode because, again, Johnny Byrne. And there is things that are horrific. I mean, when you think about it, Mentor is siphoning the minds of anybody, any visitors that come to Psychon.
The creatures in the cave, Roy. You've told me that scene as a kid traumatized you, seeing all those weird, disformed, disfigured creatures in the caves, right?
I told you that.
I thought maybe I'm imagining things, but
I don't remember telling you that because
I thought,
it's disturbing. I agree with you.
It is. Another scene that's kind of disturbing to me is when Koenig gets communication back with Alpha and he tells Tony about the Directive 4.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So, first of all, I'm like, okay, at some point, these two men had to discuss future happenings with the moon and come up with a plan to have secret Directive 4 that they would know about this, right?
Yeah.
So then I'm sitting there thinking, okay, he just asked Tony to be the executioner of all of them down on planet Psychon.
Yeah.
It's a pretty intense concept.
That's intense, and I love that scene. That's actually split into a couple bits, but I love that because there's places in there where Tony doesn't say a darn word.
Yeah.
But his face conveys so much, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's not your typical day at the office. You've suddenly been told to blow up a whole planet with your commander, your chief medical officer, your top pilot. Yeah. And of course, at that point, he doesn't know that Picard and Torrens are done with and, not coming back. So, that poor boy's been told to blow up a whole planet.
No, you know what? And that's a great point. And Tony Anhalt was a really good actor too. He was really good. And he, Warren and I had the opportunity. We got to meet Christian because Christian was in London, and Christian is a heck of a nice guy. I mean, he's Tony's son. And he was talking about when Tony filmed the Beta Cloud, and what had happened was he really got in, he jumps onto Dave Prowse, and they rehearsed that entire scene, and then the way he threw him and everything.
Mhm.
And he really just like sold it that he's hurt. In fact, he was even saying that everybody was coming over to him and saying, "Are you all right? All right." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm acting." But it's just that he really wanted, and again, I know there's some people, and that's the reason why there are some people, so that principals don't get hurt. But that's just one example, and I'm talking about a physical scene, but just in the dramatics too. I mean, I've seen him in other works. He's The Protectors. Loved
The
watching that.
Protectors, yes.
Excellent.
Have you ever watched any of Howard's Way?
No.
Okay, I had to stop watching it because when you're writing fiction, like, you don't want other stuff to contaminate your characters. Yeah. So, but I did watch some episodes of it. Different than Tony Verdeschi, but still very good acting. But yeah, and I was so glad I discovered The Protectors. So now I own the DVD set. And even though it's only a half-hour show, he's good in that too.
Yeah. No, he only had so much to do, because you figure it's.
Where's my other one? Oh. So I bought Napoleon and Love because Billy Whitelaw's in that. Tony Ann Holden, it is in that. And Catherine Schell is in that. And then I bought The Last Days of Pompeii because Tony's in it, Brian Blessed's in it, and Malik is in it.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah. So thanks to those actors, I am expanding my DVD collection.
No, and they were so good. It's a shame that Tony passed. I mean, he was only 61 when he passed. He died at such a young age. Mark commented, he said, "It was also Derek's fantastic music that I loved. At that time, it was so perfect for the show, and to me, not only exude the now as it was back then, it also had overtones of a warm and comforting future. From episode 5 onwards, I was able to audio tape the episodes, and I used to listen to those tapes over and over again, mostly for those unique music cues that were totally unlike anything ever heard on a TV show at that time." Mark, I'm with you in regards to recording the episodes. I back in the day when we weren't fortunate enough to have VCRs and DVD players and Blu-ray players and laser disc players and etc. Audio tapes were the bomb. And I remember as a kid, just I don't have any brothers or sisters, so I would entertain myself playing with Legos and building eagles and different things, and listening to the episodes in the background. I did it with 1999. I did it with Star Trek. Used to do it. I don't know if anybody out there remembers a TV show called Arc 2 back in the day. Yeah. Yep. I used to tape that. I love that show. That's going to be 50 years this year too, because it came out in September of 76. But.
Well, see, I think Derek's music really goes good with year 2 because there's such a tonal difference between the 2 years. Like year 1 is kind of like somebody opened up the front door to Alpha and invited us into main mission and said, "Now you go sit in the corner and you can observe us while we deal with this mysterious universe." And then year 2 comes along and it's like Alan Carter swung open the front door to Moonbase Alpha and said, "Come on in, get yourself a cup of 100% genuine imitation coffee and join us for the chaos, because we still have explosions and we still have Koenig, at the top of the leaderboard position for Eagle crashes." So the music goes with each tone, because year 1 is more like these poor people are shell-shocked and they're just trying to figure out how to survive. By the time you get to year 2, they've been doing it a while, and their friendships, their camaraderie, it has had time to what's the word I want? It's had time to settle between what is it, 297 people after they went through that second space warp.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Roy, there's one comment, if I could, that I'd like to bring up and address. And I know that, you quite often reference WPIX because it was your local broadcast station, and that's what you grew up with, and you're familiar with those airings, that order, those edits, like you said. I mean, but you see, down in the States, it was very unique because virtually every different TV station that aired 1999 had a little more control over things like those edits, right? And that's how you'd get different stations editing different portions, as well as different episode airing orders. But in Canada, as is, I believe, in the UK, they were broadcast nationally, which means that everybody saw the same thing the same time or the same week.
Interesting.
Right? And there's one episode or one comment here that just struck a chord in my mind. And Dave Asherson, I still see you out there. I want to circle back to a couple of weeks ago when I posted something about an old Canadian science fiction short that David remembers seeing. Also being from Canada, and he hadn't thought of it for many, many years. So David, you just blew my mind because I had totally forgotten that in September of 76, the CBC actually aired Breakaway the week before Metamorph. And what a smart thing to do when you think, right? They wanted to really give all the viewers the proper context. So I totally forgot about that. And it was, in some ways, it was baffling because I think we were thinking it was going to be the season 2 premiere. And then when you saw Breakaway, it was like, well, but what a smart thing to do. And yeah, everybody would have seen it that way nationwide, Dave. So yeah, no, that's great. I just, thank you so much for jogging my memory there, but a fascinating way to do it too.
That's really cool that, if something's airing, it's across the country.
Yeah. And there's another famous story, and Bob Wood and I have had many conversations about this really quickly. At one point during the year 2 broadcast, the CBC, for some weird, quirky reason, actually aired The Mark of Arcanon 4 times in a row.
I remember hearing that.
And that's the reason why to this day Bob Wood just hates The Mark of Arcanon with a passion, because every week and so yeah, what happened right across Canada nationwide is that we would have tuned in every week and got the same episode 4 weeks in a row, and it was like, what's going on here?
Of all the episodes.
Yeah.
Of all the episodes. Simon, thanks for joining us. Safe journeys. And he said yes, catch train to London. See you next time. Thanks for coming on.
Ken Scott's out there too.
Yep, and Ken Scott, welcome, Ken. I don't think he was saying that he saw
loved Arc 2.
Arc 2, and then he was also talking about recording the episodes as well too. Taping. Welcome. And Andy had commented about another audio taper here. Yeah, it was the thing to do. Chris also commented, and he had said, ironically, it's the music that has dated the most, though. Gray Score is cinematic. It is definitely cinematic. No questions asked. Mark's commented, at that time I thought I was the only one who audio taped all my favorite shows. Logan's Run, Fantastic Journey, Heart to Heart, Buck Rogers,
Heart to Heart.
Yeah, Return of the Saints, Man from Atlantis, Chips, The New Avengers, and so many more. It was the music I loved in those days before we got our very first VCR in late '82. Yeah, that's crazy.
So many nice comments this weekend. What a great turnout. Thank you to everybody for tuning in.
Oh, absolutely. Nancy said the week between episodes seems so very long. I was devastated when they stopped broadcasting it. Yeah.
Huh.
I like the Mark of Arcanon too, but it's just that 4 weeks in a row is a little
a little bit much.
The only thing I can say, though, the only thing I don't like about the Mark of Archon, and I know it is so hard to do, and I wouldn't be able to do it, but it's just that meteor scene with the eagle. I think out of any special effects for Space 1999, I'd say the majority of them hold up, and it's just that was just such a rough, doing meteors. That's tough.
What were they doing out there anyhow? I don't remember why the logic was to.
Well, you know what it was? It was a double up episode.
It
So
was right.
They were filming that in conjunction with the Rules of Luton. So
It was a
they
plot
just came up
device to explain
Yeah.
why they weren't
I'm
on.
sorry. It was stupid.
Yeah.
Koenig should have kept his butt on Alpha.
But you know what really amazed me though is when he said, you know, they're 17 hours away, and I'm thinking you're able to pick up the I don't know. It just kind of sometimes, you know what I mean, in regards to range with signals. Sometimes you're out of range, and then other times 17 hours away, and the signal's able to be picked up. I don't know. Just me.
The continuity sometimes wasn't there.
Yeah. Nancy said the Mark of Archon was probably my least favorite series too. See, now here's the thing too. I was a big Alan Carter fan. Yeah, there you go, Warren. I was a big Alan Carter fan. So when I would look right at the beginning for the opening credit, you know, the credits after the teaser, and if I just saw Tony Anholt's name and I knew then Nick wasn't in it, and I would be like, and that was, you know, definitely a good Alan episode. Chris said, it just occurred to me, season 1 equals Sean Connery, season 2 equals Roger Moore. The fan arguments are similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's no right or wrong answer. It's just different, right?
Yep. David said those tinfoil meteors were awful. When I heard Brian Johnson was doing The Empire Strikes Back, I was expecting tinfoil asteroids as well. Yeah, that asteroid scene in The Empire Strikes Back was incredible.
Well, yeah, he picked up. He learned the tip to suddenly start using potatoes as asteroids, literally.
Steven said I would sell copies of my audio tapes of fanzines back in the day, I think for like $1. And Chris said the Dorcons was my least favorite episode. Yeah, it's interesting. I like the Dorcons. There's a lot of people that love that episode, and that's a Johnny Byrne episode too.
It is, and it's dark. If you really sit and think about it, that really is freaking dark. Yeah. And the one thing that upsets me about that episode, you get all the action on Alpha at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Then you got Koenig following the Dorcons and stuff up to their ship.
Yep.
What is going on back on Alpha?
I agree. It was a missed opportunity.
Thank God for fan fiction, because I'm writing that one. I have it about complete. But yeah, that's a missed opportunity because, you know, there's so much that they could have tackled instead of watching Koenig run around the Dorcon ship.
Yeah.
So
no.
That's my biggest gripe with that episode. But it's dark, and it's another good episode.
It's one of my favorites.
Absolutely. Those later year 2 episodes. And it's funny, I was not a big fan. I used to dread it when it came on. Devil's Planet. I was not a fan of that back in the day.
I really dig Devil's Planet. Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of that one.
It's grown on me. It wasn't a favorite earlier on because, again, it only had, you know, as a kid, right? You're like, where's everybody else, right? It only had Koenig, right? But I think Devil's Planet is some of the best written narrative.
But we do get Fraser and Alib.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And Fraser has grown up in that episode. Mm-hmm. He's like, well, you know what? We're going to come in firing whatever his line was. You know, if you don't let us, we're coming in firing. And I'm like, Bill Fraser has grown up. He is taking charge of things.
The only thing I was surprised about though was and again, this is continuity, was when the interrogator, she said that they carry missiles. It's like, when did the Eagles carry missiles? That was
that was just their wording for the Eagles that are equipped with laser fire.
Well, that could be.
Different vernacular, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I took them literally. Mark said Space 1999 was never nationally networked in the UK. Back then, ITV was split into 15 different regions. They each had to buy the show individually, and they chose different days and times of the day to broadcast it. Some went for Saturdays, others chose Sunday mornings, Thursday or Friday nights. Some of the regions never bought or screened year 2 at all, which was of huge annoyance to Lou Grade, who I wrote to about it, and particularly the region I moved into in November of '76 after seeing 9 episodes. Oh, wow. Yeah, and that definitely would have a huge impact, to your point. MCAL21 said Dorcons would have been better if Tony had gone to get Maya. The sets were very bland, though. Yeah, they were bland, and to be fair, it was episode 24. I mean, the special effects, if you think about it, for the last episode of the series, it had some nice special effects
They
with
knocked it out
Dorcon.
of the
The Dorcon ship when it's all twisting and
Yeah.
I like that effect.
That was a
I
neat
really
effect.
did.
Nancy commented, incidentally, I recently found a site that has old issues of Starlog magazine dating back to the 70s. Not high res, but cool to see. No, thanks for, I'm aware of that, Nancy, but thank you for sharing that with our viewers. I always like to plug Starlog magazine because Starlog, I mean, you're talking pre-internet. In fact,
issue number 2. Yeah, I was just going to say, for back in the day, as far as resource material, it was issue number 2. And there was a full episode guide, including some of the first year 2 coverage and episodes. Not the, I think I
think it was the first 8, if I remember correctly.
Yes,
but look right here.
Yeah.
Oops. My this is literally falling apart, but
yeah, it was the first coverage that we'd seen on year 2.
But here you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you know what? I mean, say what you will. I mean, visually and promotion wise, yeah. I mean, everything that was out from the promo books to anything you saw in Starlog to those trades, it did look very exciting, right? There was a lot of lead up, and I think a lot of hype, a lot of people looking forward to that year 2 premiere. There you go. There's the promo book. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, beautiful.
See, and I saw none of that promo stuff, so I had no clue that year 2 even existed.
Yeah, what a gem, those promo books. Hey, Roy?
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go.
Awesome.
But let me see. I just want to catch some of the other comments here. Steven said, I really missed the big sets in year 2. It just felt, yeah, definitely. I mean, it took getting used to it. And if you examine that year 2 set, part of it is from year 1. It is definite. They utilize, like, if you're coming into Command Center, and let's say you're like, I'm looking out at you and I'm seeing the big screen, and then to the right, you have that section of that comes down. That actually came down in main mission as well. So in that front area, they did salvage that, but it's just that they minimized it so much. Chris said, if all these prisoners in Devil's Planet die after leaving the transport pod, where's the big pile of bodies?
Yeah. But you know what? That strikes a memory as well. That's one of the reasons why I like Devil's Planet so much, is the size and the scale of that interior set.
Oh, it was massive.
Right. Which we didn't see a lot of in year 2, but so it really opened up that whole episode. Really helped with the scale of things.
Mark said, I love Devil's Planet 2. The only thing I hate about it is the transfer chamber on the home planet is in the woods, not in the building of a city. It didn't even have a surface path to it, but I know and appreciate it now that it was down to budget constraints. My complaint in that too is, how did Koenig know how to activate the control panel? I mean, he had no reference to how to do it. I mean, again, we'll talk about more about
Koenig. Koenig is Koenig. He knows everything.
There you go.
He's been around a few alien ships and planets, so he's picked up a few tricks.
Thanks, David.
To circle back to Metamorph, I really like Koenig's performance, or Martin Lando's performance in Metamorph, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Again, in relation to what's going on down on Saigon, and trying to convince Maya of Mentor's ways. Yeah, really, really solid performance.
Yeah, no, it definitely.
And he knows that he can't. It's like he knows he cannot convince her unless he gets her to actually physically go and see it with her own eyes. Because he can stand there and preach it to her all day long, but if he can't convince her to go down and see it, they're screwed.
Yeah,
basically.
He had to sell her. On that. Hey, you know what, Warren? It just hit me. it was bugging me that you when you were asking me about that whole cave sequence. I think I told you this. I had a nightmare, and this was this was probably like around 79 or 80, and I think maybe this is what you were thinking of that I told you about. I remember having a dream that, and this is really bizarre, and it wasn't it wasn't to do with the cave of in the Metamorph. What it was is I was dreaming about the Bringers of Wonder, and something in the dream where Tony was in it, and what happened was he realized what they were, and he tried to stop them. And what they did was they turned him into one of them, and then pushed him out the airlock. And then I woke up. It was so. Is that what? Did I ever tell you that? Does that sound familiar?
I don't think so, but you just jogged a memory of mine. I think I had a similar dream, Roy. And you know how when you're dreaming, everything happens in slow motion? Well, I was actually being chased by one of the Bringers of Wonder. But it was happening in slow motion.
Oh, my God.
Sorry.
Alrighty then.
Lordy.
We're off to a great start for year 2.
And that dream is a true story, though. I
Wow.
remember it was during the summer. I was like 79. And the
You
reason
two-
why I probably had it was because they showed that episode. They showed the Bringers of Wonder Part 1 and Part 2 together.
You two have been sampling some Verdeshi brew on the side?
Awesome.
Guys, professional help is available.
Yeah,
See, and this is why I said when you come on this show, we have fun. There's no reason to worry. Missy's like, oh my God, these guys are crazy.
Yes. And to think I was so nervous that I was ready to, I was like, oh, can I back out? And I was like, no, it's like, 15 minutes. And I'm like, I can't back out. But I was like, oh my God.
Nancy saying mental picture moment. Slow motion.
And all kidding aside, I mean, and we should, get back to reality here. There's one thing we haven't mentioned so far about Metamorph, guys, and that's actually is very important. Koenig's vest.
Yes, we didn't talk about Koenig's vest. Martin Landau evidently hated that vest.
Can you blame him?
But
I didn't mind it. I was telling Roy that there's clips of it in those commercials and trailers that we saw a few weeks out, and I thought it was cool. Like, of course, I was 6, right? But to this day, I don't mind the look of it. I think Andrew Frampton actually owns it.
He does, and I think there were there 2 or 3? I think there were at least, maybe there was 2 of them. Supposedly, I think one Martin Landau gave to a fan, and then on set because he really didn't want it, and then the other one. Andrew Frampton came into possession of. But we really don't have the opportunity to see Koenig's tunic, with the exception of Journey to Wear, where he's not wearing the jacket, and Seed of Destruction when he takes the jacket off. Now, there is a clip that's a promotional shot. They were doing a rehearsal during the filming of A.B. Chrysalis that we see him with Nick and Catherine, and he's not wearing his jacket. My disappointment, though, is that salmon jacket that he wears. He didn't wear it all the time. I mean, he wore it in most of the earlier episodes of the first season. And I think the last one that he wore it was in Space Warp, but then he never wore it after that. It was always the fatigue jacket, like.
Well, and you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb here because, I mean, when I say I didn't mind the vest, right? There's been a few comments come through today about, certain elements of year 2 maybe not aging all that well, right? And one being the music and things like that. But to me, it's those jackets with the 70s collar that really look dated, whereas the vest, you don't get that, of course. The other thing I like about the vest is that you still see the department color. You still see the sleeve.
Yeah.
Right?
I thought it was a shame. Like, now Nick was wearing Barry's jacket early on. He wore it in the Metamorph. He wears it in this episode. He wears it in All That Glisters. He also wears it in One Moment of Humanity, the blue jacket. And
that's interesting. Yeah.
That was
hints of
just
that.
those 3. Yeah, and that was what Barry wore in Dragon's Domain.
Mhm.
The orange jacket that Koenig wore in Dragon's Domain, we get to see
Catherine wears it.
Catherine wears it in One Moment of Humanity, and Lou Picard wears it in this episode.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
So
would have been cooler to have, I think, Martin wear that type of jacket.
I like those jackets a lot better. And
I do too.
that would have built more continuity because we'd already seen them in year one,
Yeah, exactly.
if you will.
Chris said, "Yeah, lapels you can hang glide with."
Other than the lapels, I like those jackets.
Well,
you
yeah.
know.
But if they were just a little more, not so much.
Smaller?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I like those
But
jackets.
that was the style of the 70s, right?
It was. It really was. The big
It
collars.
wasn't fault the designers. It was just a product of its time.
Brian is out there, and actually, there was another comment by him. He said, "Late to the party. I'm about an hour behind. Just wanted to say it's a shame Barry was not involved. Maya had lost her father, and Victor, I assume, had no children. I feel like those two characters. Sorry."
Really
And then
good,
Brian said, "Would have connected with each other in a very significant way."
very good point.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Nancy said the conflict between Alan and John was well played by both actors. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me see here.
And this is
Scale,
go ahead.
I found a VHS of season 3 episodes at a car boot sale. I was so upset when I woke and realized it was just a dream.
It's funny.
Real quick, Nancy said, "Nancy, you would have thought that after Koenig's subterfuge in The Last Enemy, Alan would have worked out Koenig was up to something." Oh, yeah, right. That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And the Creatures from the Bringers of Wonders obviously inspired Pizza the Hut.
Overall, though, and I've gone on record as saying this before, one of the other things that I really did like about year 2 and Metamorph in particular, because it launched things, is seeing Alan and Sandra. Because those were, although there were still voids and gaps from not seeing Paul and Kano and things like that, Alan and Sandra still helped to bridge the gap, I think, on a certain level. And because, when you think of it, had it been a completely new cast all around, other than Martin Barbara, I think it would have been a little harder to grasp. But having Nick and Xenia there, I think just helped bridge that gap a little bit.
Well, that's why it really bothers me when I hear, I've heard that, and again, we weren't there, so we don't know. But I try to think of, when he was being interviewed, in regards to Fred Freiberger, he made the changes. I get he made the changes, and then basically, if the changes weren't made, there would have been no, Space 1999. And to me, you know what? I'm glad there was a year 2 of Space 1999. And I think it's sad though, and I know, just hearing from the actors though, that at least ones that came over from year 1 to year 2, that it's a shame that maybe they didn't have that same type of scenario or situation, in regards to their happenings professionally as they did in the first season, because it definitely was different. You go from being contracted to being almost like, a day player.
Yeah.
So that has to be tough. And especially when you have other people being brought in and, they're at a different level, because at the end of the day, it is work. So from that perspective, and, Missy was saying earlier, nothing, when they're performing, they're on. You really don't see anything. And that's basically true professionals. And, it really is conveyed. Their characters are conveyed the way, we're fans. And here we're talking about a 50-year-old TV series and we're still loving it. So that says a lot. It's a shame that, behind the scenes, maybe with some of them, it wasn't, to the way that they would have liked it to have been.
It was
that's what's a shame.
And she talks about it in her book a little bit about some of the differences. And I really won't repeat everything that she said in the book. It's been a little bit since I read it. But if you haven't read Xenia's book yet, see if you can get a copy. It's wonderful. It really is. But she definitely talks about the difference between when they did year 1 and then when she did year 2. And and she does go into detail about some work that she was interviewing for, auditioning, that would be the word, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, if you can get your hands on this book, get it. It's
Yeah.
really, I mean, it's definitely not dainty Sandra speaking. It
Mhm.
is spicy Xenia.
Yeah, no, and I've seen her in interviews, and she's wonderful. She really, really is. That book is out of print, and yeah, I'll have to keep a look out on eBay. Fred Freiberger was interviewed for Starlog magazine back in the day. I think it was issue 40, 41, 42. I think it was a three-part issue interview. And I remember distinctively that, he talked about, year two, and he was referencing some of the cast. And then what happened was Xenia actually wrote into Starlog. And it was, I think, in the communications section. And I have those old Starlogs, and I'd have to dig it out. But she was pretty fired up. I'll leave it at that. She was not happy because she was basically calling them out. And yeah, so
Wasn't he at the convention in LA in 99?
he was at the 2000 convention in New York City.
Was it that one?
Yeah.
Because I remember him being, because I was only ever at two. So I knew there was, at one of those conventions, he was there and speaking on it.
Yeah. And Nick was, Nick had, Nick has expressed his opinions about that too. Yeah.
They're entitled though.
Absolutely. And it's again, it's very unfortunate because, it's sad that, again, as fans, we love it, we embrace it, and it's just the business part of the business is just it's awful. It really is. Now, you had mentioned about Xenia. I remember reading an interview with Tony Anhalt, and he was talking about, I think, Xenia being offered a movie, and it was right at the end of year two. And what happened was she wasn't sure about whether or not to do it. And she decided, she does talk about it. Yeah,
she did, because Tony gave her rides back and forth.
Yeah,
and she says in the book how she probably drove him nuts talking about this movie thing or whatever it was, right? So she talks about that in the book, and she said she probably drove him insane because of the fact that she kept going, should I stay? Should I go? What should I do? Da 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 da.
Yeah, and then I guess he had a meeting with Jerry, and then what happened was he said, I seem to remember him saying, who was the wise one, because what happened was he found out that show was being canceled, and that's why. What's sad is Xenia would have been featured in. She would have had a big role in Devil's Planet because that's why they had to leave. She would have been in the Immunity Syndrome. She would have been down on the planet, and then she would also have been in Dorcons. Those would have been the three, and no offense against Lee Parsons. I mean, Lee Parsons did a great job, and Carl Held, who we is a friend of the show and who we've talked to. I had asked him about if you remember to leave, and he said absolutely, because she was in LA and she was in Aliens. She was the nurse in Aliens.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
incredible. Well, you know what, guys, we've almost we're coming up on 2 hours here, believe it or not.
Yeah, time goes fast on this show. I'm just going to catch up on the last minute comments.
Go ahead, Brian.
Real quick, Nancy says, I would love to read that book. Chris said, Nick has certainly made his dislike of Fred Freiberger quite clear. I can understand where he's coming from. David said, has anyone noticed in Dragon's Domain that Koenig and Bergman wore jackets with photo ID similar to year two? Absolutely. Absolutely, David. You're absolutely right about that. Chris says he has a copy of the book. Brian said, aside from Maya Minter and all the slaves in the mine, were there any other Psychons left alive by the time the episode begins? The answer would be no. There were not, from our understanding. Yeah, she was, Nancy. Agreed. Yeah, everybody had left. It was basically just Mentor and Maya. What other details did? Oh, one thing we didn't talk about was the graveyard ship. When they land, and Koenig said it's like, or Helena says it's like a graveyard of spaceships. And then he says we're right in the middle of it. A lot of ships that were in previous episodes, a lot of models. I mean, going from Collision Course to Dragon's Domain.
Our shuttle was upside down.
Last Enemy.
Yeah.
From the Last Sunset, you had the satellites. You could see the antennas sticking out. So that was really cool.
A nice repurposing of previous models built. But you know what? Again, I mean, the way they even if they flipped it upside down or they shrouded some of the ships in mist, they weren't instantly recognizable, right?
Yeah.
So
that was that whole special effects sequence was amazing.
Yeah.
One thing in regards to gadgets, one of the few times we get to see a commlock used in year 2, because they got away from that. The doors would just open and close on their own. I think something, I don't know if you could say, Chris said 2 probes from the Altairs were in there too. Very cool. Alan uses his commlock when he's leaving Command Center at the very beginning. We get to see that.
Yeah.
We also see a year 1 stun gun in the episode. And it's when Mentor basically turns the guns red hot and then they basically melt. He throws it on the ground. You could actually see the selector on it is from season 1 as opposed to the new season 2 selector that they have. And again, I'm just kind of being a geek here for the moment. That's just in regards to the prop. And I think that's it for that. What do you think, Warren? Any other comments?
Do you know what? I mean, I think we'll probably be wrapping up in the next few minutes here, guys. But there is one thing that we haven't discussed, and that's the fact that we talked a lot about this Metamorph premiere 50 years ago. But in addition, not as many people are aware. I think more and more over the last couple of years. But there was actually an alternative edit, a different version of Metamorph. Which aired to the best of my knowledge, in the U.S. only 2 or 3 cities, and never seen again. And it didn't air in the U.K. And for any of the people out there, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was quite a few changes to this alternative episode, including the opening credit sequence was quite different. There were some different shots and angles used.
Yeah.
And then the episode itself, of course, very famously, there was an extra scene with Maya and Mentor near the beginning where Maya, and again, demonstrating her sort of whimsical sense of humor, turns into an orange tree, right?
Orange tree.
And it's a really fun, and we were, and Roy, you're aware that a few of us were involved in recovering a bunch of the Martin Landau pneumatic tapes, and we did find a copy of this episode. And for anybody out there watching, as we've been doing these segments over the last year, I've actually been uploading the Martin Landau version concurrently with the episode that we're reviewing. So this week, be watching, and I will be uploading on the YouTube channel the alternate version of Metamorph for everybody out there.
Cool.
So yeah,
that's right, because I think it says it says with the credits with Martin Landau, Barbara Bain. Does it say? I think it says starring Martin Landau, and then I think it says starring Barbara Bain.
It's one way or the other.
It's one way or the other. It's different. And I think him firing the laser beam is different too. I think the laser is different. There's something with the effect.
Yeah, and there's a different angle over the base when Space 19 rolls in from the side. So yeah, it's an interesting little time capsule and tidbit for sure. So be watching for that. There's a couple other things as well. There's actually more explosions near the end on Psycho.
Right. Exactly. So, but
happy to provide that for everybody's enjoyment as well.
No, thanks for uploading that. So what was your favorite part of the episode, Missy?
Oh boy.
I mean, it's a tough question, but not to put you on the spot.
I still think it's the bit where Koenig's trying to convince Maya, because when she comes in and what was it? Koenig's talking to Mentor and said, let's negotiate.
Yep.
And she comes in and she's like, negotiate with a liar, you know, from that point on up until where Koenig's like, trying to convince her, you know, you have got to go see, because he knows. So I think that's one of my favorite favorite parts. And then when she comes back up after she's seen the stuff down in the pits, and then she lets them out of the cell, and Koenig's like, you know, giving the orders, you know, get the everything
and everything. Yeah.
And it's like, basically, you know, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, it's at that moment, you know, where she's waiting for Koenig to tell people to go do what they're doing.
Right.
And she's going with him back down to the Grove of Psyche. It's at that moment where it's like, okay, girl, you're no longer a Psychon. You're no longer you are now an Alphan. You know, you have just basically taken your first orders from Commander Koenig.
You made the transition.
You know, yeah, it's like, boom, you know, she's no longer the girl from Psychon.
Yeah, it's like, you know, no, it's true. It's a powerful scene, because really it's like everything she believed just went right out the window. When she saw the creatures, everything she knew then, everything Koenig was saying was the truth. And sadly, that meant everything that her father, Mentor, was telling her was a lie. And then that's where her world basically just collapsed. And that was, And I think Catherine Schell really sold that too very well.
Very, very, very well. I mean, I can't imagine anybody else playing the part of Maya to begin with. But I think, you know, she really, I mean, she sold those scenes so well. It's like, you know, because you imagine, you know, I mean, I know what it's like to lose a husband, right? But she's lost a whole planet,
right?
You know, and years of her existence have been based on falsehoods, lies, illusions, whatever, because Mentor is such a manipulative character.
Right.
And she really sells the fact that that's a huge, huge loss. I mean, and she sells it. She sells it very well.
Yeah. No, she definitely does. No, it's very, very strong scene. And even the ending, I mean, I very much, I always like that music too that they used. They didn't play it. They played it probably in about maybe 4 episodes at the end of the shows.
I still can't play it on the flute yet. I'm working on it, but I still haven't gotten it yet.
It's just such a nice tune.
I love that one. But you know, when Helena says, you'll have a new life with us. Okay, you kind of have to sit and think, if the moon hadn't gone past Psychon, or worse still, if they hadn't survived Psychon, right? You would have to sit and think, Helena knows that if all that wouldn't have happened, she knows what Maya's life would have been like after the fact, you know, if they hadn't put a stop to that. So I think that's a one line, you know, you'll have a new life with us. Such a different life than what she may have had, you know, because only the two of them on Psychon. If something would have happened to Mentor,
exactly,
what was Maya going to do? Or if he had gotten sick, or, you know, whatever. I mean, she would have had to followed in his footsteps. And that's a cringy thought, you know, to think of.
Well, and she even has that conversation with Dorzak. She even says, you know, is there something in our psychology that makes us monsters, turns us into monsters? And then he's like, you know, in order to survive in space, you know, space makes monsters of us all. And then, you know, but yeah, no, that's where fan fiction is great, because then you can explore, and, you know, those are ideas that can be discussed.
Yes, you can.
which is really cool. Just some last minute comments, because I know we're kind of up against the clock and don't want to hold folks up. I want to say hi. I think it might be Mateo. Mateo commented and said,
Rodil.
Yeah. Dorzak was another survivor from Psychon who appeared later in season 2. Absolutely. Steven said, I missed Aliens in the theater, but when I saw Leave on video, I jumped off the couch and had to rewind and enjoy. Yeah, it was good to see you. Yes, but I don't think he was on Psychon when it was destroyed, which he wasn't. You're absolutely right. Nancy said Maya's reaction to the caves and seeing Mentor destroying a part of Alpha over Koenig's shoulder was stellar. Great acting. Absolutely. David, thanks for joining us. Happy orange trees, everyone. Right back at you. Thanks for being out there. Hey, Lefferts is out there joining us from Greece. Welcome. Good to see you out there. Right. We're just on the down right now, but thanks for catching us. Chris said, Missy, I can relate to Maya regarding the loss of her world. Sadly, my life went out of the window when I lost my parents. Sorry, Chris. Stephen said, we're all aliens until we get to know one another. Great line.
Yeah. That famous resonant line of dialogue, that to this day we can all get behind as members of this fandom.
Yeah, absolutely. No, well said. Chris said, I actually wrote 12 Space 99 fan fiction stories between 99 and 2010. Fun times. Nice. Yeah, it's always
a fellow writer.
No, Misty, you know what? This has been great because I don't think we've had a fan fiction author on yet. So we're really pleased.
Yeah, this is a first.
Okay, well, the old junk I don't think exists, thank God. But the new stuff will be worthy of reading once I get it all finished. So I have 2 in the works that are standalones. In other words, they don't go with the others. Then I have I have 5 others. Ooh. That they're almost all complete. So hopefully by the end of 2026. And it basically is a year 2 arc. And then into what I would call a year 3. And it's been very interesting to work on these. And hopefully by the time I get them finished, they'll all be good novels, fan fiction novels that people will maybe enjoy reading. So we'll see. But it's hard to work on them because when you're working your day job, tending to your cat, trying to deal with grief and life and writing original fiction, it's hard to make the time for the fan fiction.
Well, Missy, I mean, if you get closer to completion on some of them, or if some of them are ready to go, reach out to me. I'm happy to post them on Space 1999 fandoms.
Like I said, probably close to the end of 2026, maybe going into 2027, but
yeah.
But it's all Tony and Maya's fault. The whole reason I ever wanted to write was because of those 2 when I was young. So, it's all their
definitely fault. We'll definitely share those. Warren, Chris Trice just sent you a photo for PM.
So, I saw that. Yeah.
And if you can share it. And Chris said, nowadays I create Space 99 Photoshop fan art, which is a lot of fun, which is cool. Thanks for sharing that, Chris. Jeff said, I did do just a bit of fan fiction too, for what it's worth. No, and you did that book too, Jeff. I remember Lou showing me that book that you did. So that was really cool. And Nancy said, I would love to take a crack at fan fiction story, maybe one day. So definitely. So I think I caught everybody up.
If I can get this off my phone and up here in time.
Yeah, send it to the.
It's an interesting shot, and I'll just read what Chris was saying. So there's a shot in Metamorph in the jail cell where on the ceiling there's like a grid work of there's like a window. And he's saying that the same grid work was actually used in Dr. No.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And I could see it. He sent a picture. I don't think I can get it over to my computer in time. But thanks for that, Chris. I'll post it on fandoms after we're done here.
Okay, cool. That's very cool.
The only other thing I thought of is going back to a little bit of that continuity and the bridge between year one and year two, folks, is that one of the things that I really, really wish they would have kept, Roy, you mentioned that in some of the novelizations, the authors got early versions of the scripts. And in Metamorph, in the novelization, there's actually, and we're talking about Tony Vedeschi, he makes a comment at one point to somebody in Command Center about
Sandra.
Is he talking to Sandra?
They actually filmed this scene. This was filmed.
This is up for debate. I mean, because boy, you want to talk about a holy grail.
If that, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah.
No, it's okay. But long story short, Tony just says, sort of mutters under his breath, something about a faulty spacesuit, and he sure wishes Bergman were here.
Yeah.
A reference to, and like, wow, how that would have bridged that gap so much easier for the fans as well, to have that continuity built in there, to address why Bergman wasn't there.
Yeah, that was a missed opportunity, and and that's something else that I've heard, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I mean, there's been a lot of commentary where Freiberger it's been said that he said that the fans wouldn't notice. It's like I was 10 years old and I noticed. You know what I mean? It's like how could you not notice where these folks were? You know what I mean? Or why you wouldn't miss them? Yeah. Now I can't say whether or not he said that comment because I don't know. I mean, there's definitely in the rumor mill that he did say that, but whether or not that's true, I don't know.
I think Xenia mentions that in her book, but don't quote me on that for sure because it's been a while since I've read it.
Right.
But I think she makes a very similar comment.
Okay.
But like I said, it's been a while since I've read it. So
yeah, and to be fair, I mean, if something like that comes from one of the actors, I mean, I tend to believe it because they were there. But and I was trying to find the to what Warren was just talking about because it was noted in here, and I'm not finding it right now. But yeah, and it's a shame that scene, if it was, obviously it was deleted, but it was supposedly filmed. But how cool would that be if that actually turned up? That extra footage, just like with the Roddenberry Vault. I always like to say
it's in the novelization, isn't it?
It is
one of the. I don't have them all.
It's Planets of Pearl, which I think is the first one.
Yeah, I did originally have that years ago. I don't know that I've gotten another replacement for it, but I did have that novelization.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely did a lot of stuff. No questions asked. But anyway, yeah. But no, thanks for pointing that out, Warren, because that's a huge point. It's a very important point in regards to that deleted scene. It's a shame that it wasn't out there.
Sorry, I'm just trying to work away here and see if. Oops. Wow.
No, we're going into the abyss.
No.
That's a space warp if I've ever seen one. Can everybody see that?
Yes. Excellent. Thanks for sharing, Chris.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
That's definitely a nod to that. Wow.
And you know what, Roy? Wasn't John Hug just wonderful to meet in person in London?
Oh, absolutely.
So sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a heck of a nice guy.
Yeah. No, for sure.
I never got the opportunity to meet certain cast members. I only got to meet some. So he's one I would like to still be able to have that opportunity to meet, but
yeah, he's a heck of a nice guy.
Just out of curiosity, what's your schedule like this September, Missy? Because if you come to Manchester,
I would love to. I would love to, but on a widow's budget, probably not going to happen.
Yeah, I hear you.
Plus, I don't know if my anxiety would serve me well on a plane flight from Texas. I don't know. Yeah. Even if I had the money, I don't know if I could do it.
And anxiety or not, that 11-hour flight is arduous for the best of us. Like it's one of the things that I don't look forward to, certainly.
Yeah, and if you're traveling by yourself, which I would have to, when I went to the convention in Los Angeles, my sister went with me, so I had somebody on my very first plane flight. So that helped.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know that I could handle a flight. Oh,
Yeah. Did you go to
I
Breakaway
don't
as
think
well?
I can do it.
Did you go to Breakaway as well in '99? Yeah. So you did the two back to back, hey?
Yeah. That was such a cool convention. And you know what? My sister and I, the grocery store that was like kind of across from the hotel, whatever it was called. So my sister and I went over there and got some stuff. Do you know who we got to stand in line behind at the grocery store? Xenia.
Oh, wow.
Very nice.
She was getting bananas. I do remember she got bananas and I think a bottle of wine.
Oh my goodness.
Because my sister's like, hey, she taps me. She goes, look. And so, you know, because her and I were talking. And so I turned around and it's like, oh my gosh. I'm like, how cool is that? You know?
That is just terrific. And one of the things we should all be grateful for with this fandom is the hands-on, you know, when you go to conventions and events, it's like, it's not like a big expo where they you know, the celebrities are highly guarded and only behind closed doors, right? All of our guests and celebrities are, you know, they're sitting down having dinner with us or you know, whatever. It's such a unique experience that
I think my favorite memory is in Los Angeles. I got to have a couple of minutes private conversation time with Barry Morse.
Oh, beautiful.
And not that I knew at the time, but they have this thing that's called like anticipatory grief because of his wife being sick. Now I understand. Now I understand the conversation and some of the stuff, but I will treasure that memory because how often do you get to say that you can stand somewhere and talk to Professor Bergman? You know, how many people had that opportunity? And there was nobody else around. So it was just him and me. And I don't know. That was just
special moments for sure.
Very special.
He was such a nice guy. So he was like the grandfather to the fans. He really, really was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember, you know, it's like when, you know, he came out and people would be taking pictures and then he'd pull out his camera and he would be taking photos of everybody else, you know, and it's just, yeah, he really was very appreciative. It's a shame he's not. It's a shame, you know. So many people, you know, from the show. It's just time has marched on. It's crazy, but it's, you know, it's one of those things.
Yeah, but if somebody gets a chance to go to the next one, I would definitely say, you know, go. If you've never been to one, try to go.
Stephen just said London was amazing with all the last minute guests. Hopefully Manchester will bring many back. Andy also said John Hug was an absolute delight in London. Actually, every guest has been amazing. Where I'd like to have a clip of when we were video speaking with Catherine during the 50th in LA, when I told her that I had a crush on her back in the day, and she responded with, "Oh, you're a handsome man too." I remember that, Stephen.
I remember that. Yes, I watched that.
Nancy said I had a lovely chat with his Isla Blair in London. What a delight. And let's see. Stephen said I regret never meeting Barry and Xenia. Yeah, Xenia was really nice too. Chris said I've been fortunate to have met and had drinks with Nick at Wonderfest events. It was fun to meet and talk with him. And Stephen said I will definitely go to Manchester.
Awesome. Thanks, Stephen.
Good. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, early buzz has been very, very positive so far. So just be watching over the next few weeks, everybody, for news and announcements. The next step is we'll hopefully be locking the hotel in the next 4 to 6 weeks, so people can start planning a little more in depth on things. And yeah, we're gearing up for a good time again.
Cool beans. Well, thank you, Warren, for getting the setup as always, and Missy, thank you for joining us.
Thank you both. Yeah, this has been a really fun show. And
thank you for letting me come hang out.
Absolutely. pleasure meeting you, and thanks to everybody out there in the comments section today. Boy, the support has been, the viewership through the roof today, so we really appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it, folks. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And yeah, we'll be back next week, and we will be doing episode number 2, which is The Exiles.
The Exiles.
So,
everybody, just as a heads up, what we're going to do to close out the show today is we do have a new special opening that our friend Catherine Bugeaud has put together for us. But there's a couple little tweaks we need to make to it, primarily because we ran into this a number of times last year with music and copyright. If we run videos or portions of videos, it'll actually sort of blacklist the stream. And people in the UK won't be able to see it. So that's why we didn't run the opening at the beginning of the show. We're going to run it on the way out. So if we do get shadow banned, it's not going to affect the whole broadcast or anything. But we'll keep working on it over the next couple of weeks and see if we can get it in such a fashion where it won't trip those copyright censors on YouTube. So that's how we were going to end things off today. Thank you to special guest Missy O'Neill and my co-host, as always, and good friend Roy Belquist for tuning in today.
Thanks, Warren. Thanks, Missy.
No
and thanks,
problem.
Chris. Glad you enjoyed the show.
Yeah, people are still chiming in. So yeah, no, we're really pleased with it.
Thanks for joining us, Stephen. Glad you could make it.
That's awesome. Stephen, where are you from, real quick?
Yeah, let us know.
If you're
you too, Chris. I try to put a I get it to commit the areas to memory. Pretty good.
No, for sure.
Thanks,
okay.
Andy.
And I just got to find that video.
Yep.
Sorry, everyone. There it is. All right, so we'll say live long and prosper for now, everybody. And thanks again to everybody out there. We'll see you next week for Exiles. Bye for now.
Bye for now. And sit tight, and here we go.
Except it's not working.
Uh-oh.
What's going on? Hang on.
I'm going to quote Star Wars. Almost there.
Okay, that's not it. That was your slides, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Why isn't this working? Hang on. Oh, there it is. I found it.
Cool beans.
Lovely technology. Here we go.
Thank you again, Catherine Bugeaud. You're amazing. Amazing.
Now, wonderful. Love it. Love it. With the quick editing of all the episodes, just like she did for the year 1 version.
Her work is fantastic. I can't say enough good things about her work. She's just incredible. I just.
And in that 38 seconds, Stephen Sava says you're right in London. So yeah, only a couple hours north of Manchester. So welcome to the family, my friend.
Awesomeness. Just get rid of my picture for that. That's all.
When Roy and I say we're going to be tweaking it, yeah, we
that's my only complaint.
The bone of contention is the awful photos of both him and I in those spacesuits. So
anyway,
no, awesome. And Nancy saying fabulous, well done. No, so that's about it for this week, everybody. Thanks so much again, and Missy, we really appreciate you coming on for this opening episode of year 2. Okay, and then we'll say,
we'll say it again. And if you were, and if you're in the U.S. and you're in the midst of this storm, stay safe.
Stay safe.
Stay warm.
And stay warm. Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, we'll see everybody soon.